Thanks for tuning in, guys. Today I'm gonna kind of go over with you how to install a pump system if you're trying to do it for yourself. What we've got here, we've got a 3/4 horsepower 7 gallon a minute pump. If you're going to install it yourself, I recommend do not buy a Lowe's pump. They do not have the longevity that a J class, a Schaefer, or a Goulds has. So when you do buy a pump, if you do put it 300 feet, I don't recommend going past 300 feet just due to the pressure ratings of the pipe. Get you a brass or a stainless steel fitting, and always look for your clamps. They will say all stainless steel on them. Make sure you find the clamps that say all SS, or the band. The band is made out of stainless, but the part here, or the screw itself, is not made out of stainless, so it will rust and it will break. So always get you a metal fitting for the top of the well. Take your blowtorch, heat your pipe up a little bit. Then you can push it on and tighten your clamps down real tight. And we're going to take the wire here. I made this special spool sitting on 2 bearings. We're going to pull some wire out and get it all hooked up. While I walk, the reason black roll pipe is used in a well is because it's flexible and it's easy to come out. You normally find it at your hardware store at 160 psi. The newer pipe has been up to 200 psi. Well, if you think what's the operating pressure of your normal well, it's around 50 to 60 psi. Whatever your switch is predetermined to set at. So when you start talking about putting a pump down at 300 feet, your water level is normally around 30 foot from the top. That would be your static level. So if you have a 300-foot pump and your well doesn't make a lot of water, the head pressure on the very first spot of pipe right above the pump, if you have drained the water level all the way down to the 300-foot mark, believe it or not, the water pressure right above the pump inside of that pipe is 150 psi. You get a half of psi for every foot of head. So it's only that much if you drain the water level all the way down. So if you were to put a pump, say at 400 feet, and you were to drain it all the way down, you are going to have 200 psi of pressure right above that pump. If you drain the water level down that far, and basically, you would run out of water at that point. Then you have to add on top of that the 50 psi that your house is going to hold and your pressure tank needs. So now you're going to have 250 psi pressure right above the pump inside the pipe, and the pipe is only rated for 160 to 200. Now take your electric motor of your pump, and it's down there running and running and running and running, and it won't cut off because the pump can't build 250 psi. So the motor gets hot, makes the water get hot. When the water becomes hot, the pipe itself becomes more pliable because it's not sitting in 50-degree water. So when the pipe is sitting in warmer water, it has a tendency to expand and burst. So if you ever have a pump that's set at 400 or 500 feet, more or less that's a no-no. I would never put one past 400 foot. And if you do put it at 400 foot, make sure you buy specialty pipe at 200 psi. That would help your situation. Okay. Now, most wells have a tag on the side of them if they were done by a reputable well driller. And the tag on the side of the well is going to give you all the information that you need. So if you have a tag on your well and you know the information that is in your system, then you can kind of justify to know how deep your pump needs to be. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, you've got a 300-foot hole and the casing depth is at 78 foot, and all this is stamped. You'd have to know this, to be exact. If they say you've got 10 gallons a minute, I would suggest you putting your pump no deeper than 75 foot. Reason being, most half horsepowers, and you would put a half horsepower in it, most half horsepower pumps are capable of pumping 10 to 12 gallons a minute. And if your well makes that, then you'll be fine. I mean, even if it made 6 gallons a minute, you could still put it at that depth. Now, the reason I say 75 foot, if you have 78 foot of casing, then basically your pump is going to be sitting inside of a plastic case instead of being sitting down inside the rock or wherever, you know, the pump could be sitting. So if it's sitting inside the plastic casing, every time that pump kicks on, it's not going to be rubbing up against a you know, a rock surface, creating the grit that you're going to see inside your house. So if you can't do that and your well makes 1 or 2 gallons a minute and you have a 300 or 400 foot hole, you can put your pump at 300 foot. Now, I'd never recommend putting a pump completely on the bottom of a well. I would always raise it 20 foot from the bottom if you had to. So if you had a 300 foot hole, normally we don't do that. On the well we are here today, we drilled it to 400 feet. It makes 1 gallon to 2 gallons a minute, and we're putting the pump at 300 feet. So that will give you 500 gallons of usable water at any given time. And that's normally enough for the average household to be sufficient to not have an issue. Now, it's definitely not a well you could go irrigate your lawn or things like that, but if you're just talking about strictly living on this well, then that's all you need. Always hook up your ground wire first. That way you don't mess up the 2 hot leads. And I like to keep them in order, the way that they come out of the pump. That way they lay flat when you tape them up. And I will show you. Now, if you are doing this yourself and you have the shrink wraps, make sure you take your epoxy shrink wraps and slide them over your wire first. I do not use shrink wraps. I use this blue tape here. It's a rubberized tape. You have to separate the 2 layers, peel off the blue. It does a really, really good job. Mosquitoes are out. Most people can go to the hardware store and they can get this rubberized tape, or they can get the heat shrinks easier than they can get the rubberized tape. See the tape right here? You peel that layer off like so. And what happens is this tape right here, if you fold it over and you stick it like that, it bonds to itself. See, I can't even take that back apart. It has stuck so well, just like by that doing that. Very, very good stuff. I'm 30. I've been doing this for 13 years, and this is all we've ever used. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure these wires are flat. When they come out, we're gonna flip it. Okay. Put our first thing of tape above this, keeping that straight, nice and tight. Make sure they're all in line. Come down here, another piece here. Candy cane it down over top of the pump. A few wraps. Light that off. We're going to candy cane it all the way back up to this point. Make sure you keep your wires flat. You don't want any bulges. Over top of your wire splice. Then you do a full wrap covering it completely, and I like to do 2 passes. Gives a little bit extra protection, a little bit of wear resistance. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to tape it every 2 to 3 foot, the entire 300-foot length. Very important to keep your wire on the bottom of your pipe as you tape. If your wire is on the top of your pipe as you tape, when your pipe is hanging vertically in the well, you're going to have a loop between every single tape joint. So keep your wire against the bottom. If you're doing this yourself and you are doing a 300 footer, you're probably going to need 4 rolls of tape. And I would say don't cheap out and buy tape from Harbor Freight, because it just doesn't stick like the 3M brand. The 3M brand really does a good job. Okay, so as you can see, we are at the end of the 300-foot line, and just kind of showing you that I have taped it every 3 feet all the way up the distance of the pipe to the house. Alright, we're going to install the well seal. Now, anything past 300 foot, I would recommend going to a metal well seal. Anything you're going to find at Lowe's is going to be a 2-piece cast well seal. They're going to have a split down the middle, and the only thing holding them together is going to be the rubber. Those, I do not recommend those at all. What will happen is, as it gets old, if it breaks, if the bolts break, if someone takes them out, the bottom is cut in half, so half of the moon-shaped well seal will fall down the hole, and it can get trapped right on top of the pump or somewhere in the pipe, and as you try to pull the pipe out and the pump out, it wedges in and you just don't get it out. If you do get it out, you're really lucky. So we're going to put a plastic ABS well seal on. Get your 2 clamps, make them both face the same direction. Heat it up. We use brass 90s. The plastics, that's just a no-no in my opinion. I would definitely use metal on any of them. All of the weight from the system basically rests on this 90 and those 2 clamps. So that's why it's important to use stainless steel clamps and a brass 90. Now if you're doing a 80 foot or 100 foot half horsepower, you can use a plastic elbow. But if you put any stress on the pipe that comes straight out, you're gonna break it. So, and as you can see, we have a threaded PVC male into this brass 90. So we put PVC in the ground because it's more resilient to tree roots and rocks and stuff like that. I mean, it's 450 PSI 1-inch Schedule 40 pipe, where you can have 1-inch black roll pipe that's only 160 to 200 PSI. So the white is definitely stronger, but I don't recommend putting it in the well, because at every glue joint, as you pull it out and it bends over, it can snap and break at the glue joint. So now, since we are in North Carolina, the rules and regulations state that you have to have a metal box right here for all your wires and your wire nuts, and you have to have a well vent on this side. So every state is different, the rules and regulations. Now, these 4 bolts that go on your well seal, what they do, the well seal is actually made up of 3 different pieces: plastic top, plastic bottom, and a rubber center. So if you were to tighten these bolts, it's going to squeeze it together, and the rubber center is going to expand out. And what that does, it tightens against the metal or the plastic casing where it rests. That keeps it from jumping. When the pump kicks on and it torques, what can happen sometimes is the well seal will lift and move a little. So you tighten those bolts and it squishes out and keeps it firm in place. Never take these bolts all the way out. They will drop completely down the well, and the bottom part of the well, if it's a 2-piece, will fall off. Just a helpful tip. Now we're going to go put it in the well. So the rule here is that you have to have your casing protrude at least 12 inches above the ground. So we're going to take the Sawzall here and measure up about 13.5 inches, and we're going to cut it off flush. Now that we've cut it off, I'm gonna go get the pump and my wheels, and we're gonna drop it. So we've got the wheels on the well and the pump here. We're gonna go ahead and drop it in. Now, if anybody's wondering how it's made, kind of get an idea, it's 2 wheelbarrow wheels and some channel iron and some round stock right there. Just as simple as that. Goes all the way up, where all we do is pull it and it goes right on in. Just heard it hit the water. $200 feet to go. Just kind of letting it go in by itself, giving you an idea. This is the last, let's say, 60 foot. I'm just gonna grab onto it and hold it, get it out of the bushes. Now, take in mind, I am making sure that I'm not putting any weeds down the hole. We don't want any sticks on it. Okay, to the well seal. It just goes right on over. Sits right down on the hole. Grab that, remove that. Okay. Now, depending on which direction he comes in from, I will turn that, and the wires will be shortened to about right here because of the box that has to be mounted on that. Well, okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it helps anybody out there who wants to put in their own pump. If you just want to watch your plumber install it and kind of already have an idea about what's supposed to go on, but that's about as professional as you can get as far as installing a pump. My video might not be as professional because I'm more of a hands-on person than a computer editing person. So I'm just trying to share my knowledge with as many of people out there as I can. Just trying to help anybody out. That way they don't have to do things 2 and 3 times just to get it to work right. Maybe they can watch a video and say, okay, that's how you do it, and more or less try to do it the right way the first time. So thank y'all for watching the video. Subscribe, and hopefully I can post some more videos to come. Thank y'all.